Good evening, everyone. We will start the Monday, November 18th council meeting. Roll call show all councilors are present. Agenda review. Could I get a motion to add order 19194 to the agenda this evening?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of putting this on the agenda? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to approval of the minutes of the October 21st council meeting. Could I have a motion, please?
Move approval. Second.
All right. Anyone have any comments, questions, changes, corrections?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll take a vote on the approval of the minutes of October 21st. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Moving on to public hearings. Public hearing A, to consider a vitulers license for DMCP Group LLC doing business as Dunkin' Donuts, 3 Stillwater Avenue. Oh, we have a fill-in today.
Bella Ryder, Assistant Town Manager. I'm here in place of Dave Milan, Community Development Director. All inspections are complete and taxes and sewer are current, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you very much. Anyone wish to speak for or against this license? Hearing none, I'll close public hearing A. Move on to public hearing B, to consider a Class 1 malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license and vitulers license for Farnsworth Enterprises doing business as Pat's Pizza, 11 Mill Street.
All inspections are complete, taxes and sewer are current, and staff recommends approval.
Great. Does anyone wish to speak for or against the issuing of this license? Hearing none, I'll close public hearing B. And public hearing C, the applicant has withdrawn their application, so there will be no public hearing C. We're moving on to acknowledgments by council members. We'll start with Terry.
I just, with Thanksgiving coming up, I just kind of want to let people know that the UMaine Rainbow Resource Center on the campus is having their Thanksgiving food drive going on right now, accepting a lot of things from turkey through all the fixings up until the November 21st. If you'd like to give something to the cause, you can go to the Bodwell Center, 3rd floor, Memorial Union, or if you have questions, 581-3091.
Thank you, Terry. Cheryl?
Yes, I have a couple of things. Well, the same, Orono High School is also having a food drive too, so to help the kids out, and every class has been assigned a category. So I guess you'll have to go to find out. I don't know what the categories are. I just know they're doing it. I want to say, as the school season has started, the Collins Center for the Arts, I would like to acknowledge the Maine Folklife Center and the Cultural Affairs Distinguished Lecture Series. I saw a show, Kune, and I'm not going to know when I saw this weekend, I think, that was bringing multicultural artists together from Toronto. And I just think that the Collins Center is such a gift that we have in this community. It was a beautiful show, and they had reduced the ticket prices. And I also want to acknowledge Danny Williams, who is our Orono resident, and the passion that he brings to his job. It's very evident. So I think we have a gift here in the Collins Center. So I'd like to say thank you to them.
Megan?
I would like to proactively acknowledge Public Works because apparently winter is starting early this year. And I know that very soon they're probably going to, sooner than we'd like, they're going to be out there plowing and shoveling sidewalks and keeping up the excellent job they do every year. So shout out to them. And I wish that it was still fall.
Tom?
Ditto on Public Works. I thought they did a great job with our first storm of the year. And I'd like to acknowledge the town employees who are putting on the senior citizen Thanksgiving luncheon this Thursday at 4:00 in the senior center. It's a lot of effort on the part of our employees and a really good community activity. Nice to be part of it.
Lori?
I've been serving on the Maine Natural Resources Conservation Program Advisory Committee. That's a group of eight individuals. I represent Maine Municipal Association. We are advising on what funds from a natural resources funds should be used to purchase and improve wetlands. This year, there were over $3.5 million worth of requests made, and we there were $4.8 million of requests made, and we suggested that $3.6 million be funded. And the very top of the list of the projects that were recommended by 8 people, not just me, was the Caribou Bog project proposed by the Orono Land Trust. So I want to acknowledge that across the state, the group we have that does the Orono Land Trust work, which is part of the SAMP that has been worked on for years. I want to acknowledge how great they are, and that all over the state, their proposal was rated the top of all the proposals, and that those will be awarded. Again, we just recommend. There's a different group of people who say whether they're actually going to be funded, and that's this Thursday morning in Augusta will be the panel that will actually award those.
Pam?
Yes, I want to reiterate appreciating to Public Works and also mentioning the Scott Scripture Memorial Thanksgiving dinner this coming Thursday, a wonderful event. Also want to acknowledge the passing of Vicki Lynch. She was a pre-K instructor at Asa Adams for many years. This kind of hits home. She was Castine's first teacher at Asa Adams. I know she was Ella's as well. She made a huge impression. She was diagnosed with, I think it was pretty advanced, I'm drawing a blank on it, but cancer anyway, back in February. And so and she just unfortunately, sadly passed away this weekend. And I'd like to send my condolences and all of ours to her family, to the Asa Adams faculty, staff, and greater community. Every single student she ever worked with touched their lives. She was just an amazing person, and it's truly a loss, and heartfelt condolences.
Thank you, Sam. The other thing I'd like to add about the Thanksgiving dinner is that you can still reserve a dinner to be delivered if you call the town office. So moving on to unfinished business. I don't believe we have any. Moving on to the consent agenda. Before I take a motion on the consent agenda, I need to take a motion on order 19189.
So I would move that we indefinitely postpone action on item 19189.
All right. I have a second.
Second?
Right. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Now I'll take a motion on the consent agenda.
Move approval as amended.
Okay. And I need a second, please.
Second.
All those in favor of the consent agenda? Passes unanimously. Moving on to new business. Order 19193, order increasing the funds originally approved by Council Order 19151 for the landfill remediation project to Whitmore Contracting Inc. of Holden by $12,430 due to a field change of project scope, with such funds also to be drawn from the landfill reserve account, and further to accept 90% reimbursement funds from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, MDEP, to be placed in the same account. Motion, please.
Move approval.
Second?
Briefly brought this to Finance Committee's attention. As folks are aware, we had a breakout at the landfill. Rob worked with CES, our consulting engineer, for quite a long time to come up with a full understanding of what was happening and the remediation that was necessary. Worked with the state of Maine, DEPs, to make sure that our scope of remediation was acceptable to them so that we would get reimbursement, 90% reimbursement for the work. At the end of the day, when they opened up a piece of the earth, the hill, and they had to go in and take out topsoil, put it back in, and compact it, and then put the loom on top of that. When they got in there, they had to take a much bigger piece than they had originally anticipated.
And what's a breakout? Can you just kind of,
If you can imagine, you have this hill of waste. It has been covered. There is drainage happening within that. There can also be methane breakouts. We were able to determine that it was not a failure of our gas system. It was simply a drainage issue, but it had eroded more than what they had expected. So at the site, Rob worked with the contractor. Instead of stopping everything with the hill partially open, and did a change order, which amounted to almost $13,000, the amount you see here. DEP has approved the work, and we are all set to get 90% reimbursement. When the state has the money, we'll get the money. But I wanted, in order for our books to be clean, you really need to accept the increased cost and allow me to pay the bill that I've already paid.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? We did kind of talk through this in finance, and something that has to be done. All right, I'll take a vote on order 19193. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Order 19194, order casting the town of Orono's ballot for Robert L. Butler of Waldoboro to serve on the Municipal Review Committee Board of Directors from January 1, 2020 to December 31, 2022. Take a motion, please.
so moved?
Second?
As MRC members, we are entitled, I would say obligated, to cast a vote every year for directors. This is a board of directors that I happen to serve on. This year, there were three people running for 3 vacant seats, so it's the top 3 vote getters. So I have it on pretty good authority that everybody is going to get elected. However, I do think that it's important for Orono to cast its vote. The only person that we were asked us for support was Bob Butler, and he is the individual that the Orono Town Council and 3 other elected official bodies nominated for the position. So that is why the order is written with his name, but you could amend or do whatever you would like.
So we as a council already nominated him,
Yes.
and when was that?
A month ago, I would say. He and I had a conversation. He currently serves on the MRC board. He was appointed to fill the remainder of a vacant term. And I came to council and just expressed that he was very detail oriented, asked a lot of really good questions, did homework, and did a lot of work outside of board meetings. I found him to be a wonderful addition to the board, and I was hoping that council would nominate him to give him a 3-year term to see what he could do.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll take a vote on order 19194. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Move on to council committee and representatives reports. We'll start with Sam.
We didn't have a meeting this week. I don't know if it's said on the microphone. We didn't have a meeting this month. We're going to have one in December.
And that was community development.
Community development, yes.
Lori, do you have anything to report?
I do not chair a committee.
I did go to a conference this last week, and it was very educational. It was educational. I was specifically interested in a panel I went to that was about housing and low-income housing, and I would like to present what I learned at another time, maybe when we have a committee meeting or workshop.
Great. Tom?
Finance Committee will be meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, so I don't have a report tonight. However, Megan, should we mention briefly, Megan and I have been serving on the Keith Anderson Building Committee. We have been really helped by John McCormick, who has just been a wonderful addition to that committee in terms of organizing some engineering studies to be done. A lot of the engineering has been done. We have met with an architect who is going to prioritize the work for us and put some prices on it. So hopefully in the not too distant future, we can present a package to the group as to what needs to be done, how much it's going to cost, and then we can figure out how we're going to do it.
Thank you. Megan?
Yes, and that was a subject that we discussed at the Orono Historical Society meeting this month. They were curious to hear the progress. And yeah, I'd like to also thank not only John, but we've had a lot of donated time and energy from some of these professionals that have been working on the study, which is wonderful. Yeah, so the Orono Historical Society met. It was kind of an informal meeting. We had lunch, and they were on their way to the Hamden Historical Society to learn how they afford a $500,000 wing addition. They have a lot of resources, and they have a very beautiful site. Now, that's a joke. That's not why they were going, but they were very curious to see the new addition. So they had a field trip to the Hamden Historical Society. But at the lunch, we did discuss a number of things, including Keith Anderson Center, and we also discussed the bicentennial. I was talking to them a bit about, their desire to be involved in some of the activities or planning that we could do around that, and they were interested in that. The Comprehensive Plan Committee met on November 4th. We had two topics of conversation that night. The first was we discussed the proposed village residential district, which is something that was carved out in the comprehensive plan as something that could potentially be a good idea. So the committee had identified that as its main priority for this upcoming year. So we first went through what the comprehensive plan recommended about such a residential district in terms of how to allow for more people to fit into space in the area immediately around the village center. So we went through what the comprehensive plan recommended and just got an overview of that. We, as always, chewed on the issue of owner occupancy and how that might factor into various decisions. We're going to discuss this more next month with more information about the walkability radius and the MDR density. So trying to figure out what the right approach might be in terms of walkability and what that means. What distance from the center of the village, or are there multiple centers that should be walkable? Anyway, so we're going to continue talking about that. We also discussed a conceptual proposal to resolve use concerns related to the university zone with some of the fraternity houses that like to use their space to rent out to groups over the summer, and how that didn't quite match up with what our zoning allowed, and how we could come to a compromise with the university and with those fraternity houses to make sure that they could have that option, but in a way that worked with our health and safety requirements. So town staff is drafting some language that I think a good compromise has been reached between the town and the university. So staff's continuing to work on that.
Cheryl or Terry?
I'll just give the little update on the Orono birthday celebration. So on the 12th, last Tuesday, Mitch, Dave, and I had a meeting to kind of like get the ball rolling, and so this is just the beginnings of it. So we're kind of compartmentalizing things into different boxes. So just to kind of give you an idea where our thoughts are going, the way it looks as of now is just, like I said, the very basics of this is that we start off on the celebration will be on the 15th of March, which is celebrating the birthday of Orono. We'd start out with like a 5K run in the morning for those people who love to run like me. But I think that one of the focal points that we've already kind of nailed down that would be an amazing thing, we're looking at doing a thing called the Taste of Orono. So it allows for not only just the food side of Orono, but also some beverage sides of Orono, to bring in not just even just a simple, like the restaurants, even things people at the hotels, maybe the country club, or just trying to get all the businesses involved in one space, and also incorporating the historical side of this. Meg's is going to be working with us to kind of help with that aspect of it. We're kind of also looking at the possibility of house tours, historical stuff. So that once again will be coming through, talking to the Historical Society and seeing what their capacity is to kind of help us to put this out as a educational piece for a lot of people who are not familiar with the history of Orono. And then we also felt that during the Taste of Orono and events that do not have a price to attend, because we want this to be free, we are going to take the opportunities to have donations, though, and we felt that the Historical Society would be a really good choice to receive those donations. So I think I kind of captured everything. Oh, and the other thing that is we're looking at to kind of engage the community is to have a YouTube competition that you could use. What does Orono mean to you, or what does Maine mean to you? Kind of pick which one is your thing, and it will be obviously very edited and very it won't be going out. And we'll probably, the way it stands now, we're looking at maybe the possibility of having a top 3 or 4 or 5 finalists that at the Taste of Orono people can look at the videos, and then the public can choose who they felt was the best YouTube video. So lots going on, and then that whole scheme of it, Dave and Mitch are pumped about working on some kind of entrance into the States Parade down in Lewiston. So stay tuned for a lot to come. Thanks.
Thank you, Terry.
Cindy, could I just have one more second? We're talking about the Keith Anderson Community Building, and I mentioned John McCormick of Community Member, who's been a big asset to us. I'd also like to mention Mitch Stone, who's been our staff liaison, and he's done a really nice job organizing us and keeping us moving along.
Great, thank you. As your chair, I would also like to just add a couple of things that I've been doing on a fairly regular basis. I am the Orono representative to the Bangor Target Area Development Corporation, or Upstart Maine, and it struggled for a long time, but we are happy to say that it is full capacity. So that means that there is entrepreneurs in all the spaces in Orono, and thanks to Dave, he's come up with a very interesting concept. He has rented a room that can be used by Orono residents or Orono university members to just develop a plan to move forward, to expand. And you'll see one of the graduates of this Upstart Center Box of Maine is now out on Stillwater Avenue, so they were very excited about that. I also represent the council and the Orono Public Library Foundation, which, as you heard at the 10th anniversary, is looking to expand the library, so you'll hear lots more about what's going on with that. Saturday, our town manager was ill, so I represented the town at the president's house and then at the football game, and I met the chief of staff, the new chief of staff. I was very impressed with her. I talked with the president and her husband and a few of our residents, and it was cold, but it was a good day. Met the chancellor. And then on Thursday, I am speaking to the Operation Breaking Stereotypes for to kind of help the students learn a little bit about what the town governments do. Brian McGill will be speaking from the school. There'll be representatives from the Old Town Council and Indian Island Council. So that's what I've been up to. We'll move to future agenda items and items of concern. Harry, we'll start.
This is probably a good time. I just sent out a notice for March 16th for, I'm calling it Tween and Teen Night at council. So I checked the school calendar and nobody's listed yet for March 16th, 2020. So the schools have been invited to start a curriculum, municipal governance kind of curriculum, and so that they can come to council and do a kid night. But it's a Tween and Teen Night, so.
Yeah. Tom? Lori? Sam?
I was invited to speak to the local Girl Scout troop yesterday to talk about how we address citizens' concerns and discuss them on the council and come to compromise to move forward to make ordinances. And they had great questions. They're very interested in the process. And so I want to thank the Girl Scout leaders. That's Robin Climo and Rachel Dobbs for inviting me to join the Girl Scouts yesterday afternoon.
That's great. I have asked our town manager to just update us on how the pump track went and the paddlers went. I don't know if you want to do that now or later at a committee meeting. You do it later.
I think I misunderstood because I've got Mitch all set to give brief presentations at the Community Development Committee meeting.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Public petitions. I don't think we have any public comments. Susan?
Hello, it's Susan Whitmore. Got 3 comments. One responding to Megan Gardner in terms of walkability. Excuse me. Okay. I've actually contemplated along Kelly Road, perhaps a sidewalk addition along Kelly Road to make access to the disc golf. Or walkable from in town to the disc golf would be a good walk and workout. And also, since the name Whitmore appeared in council, I'll take that as an opportunity to simply, I might have mentioned this before, though that's another lineage of Whitmore. They're essentially total strangers. I've met 2 people from that lineage on a couple of 5-minute occasions. So equate just to clarify that. I'm glad, a few years ago, I was actually rebuilding my website. And at that time, I actually discovered there's another Susan Whitmore of the same, very similar background and professional field located in the state of California. 1 township away from where I last saw my metal shop and 18 years worth of metalworks that were all packed into a vehicle which got stolen. Oddly coincidental, that's also, considering the Canadian border and such, and kind of of all my years within academics and such, no one informed me that there's another Susan Whitmore. Perhaps you might want to pursue another field so that to avoid such confusion. There's that, and also incident of, years ago, I was informed my social security number had also been used, that there's a case of identity theft had occurred in my name. So some confusions have occurred amongst the names. So clarity, I haven't met that person or corresponded or communicated with that person either. So for absolute clarity to local government, I'm kind of a loner up here. And my final comment is, this past week I read a report. It was a report that the CDC had made additions to its list of antibiotic resistant, I think it was mostly bacterias. And I found the additions were very alarming, because some of them included, it was Salmonella, E. coli, pneumonia, colitis, dysentery. I forgot the scientific name, the yeast infections, which can occur both orally and below the belt. Those were a few of the additions. And prior to this meeting, I attempted to find the specific documentation with the CDC, and I think there are 18 additions to that list as well. And all that's very concerning, considering, especially the state of California, all of the disasters it's faced. The homeless population has increased. I think the statistic number was 47%. And they've already had issues with hepatitis and typhus as well. And those numbers are most likely increasing. And it's not as though that's the only state that's had disaster-related homeless displaced population issues. I imagine Texas is still recovering. And there's one other, and also I'll make an addition to my topics. I'll also encourage people to drink milk. Reports of the recent dairy farms that have been struggling and such due to people making dietary changes. I myself drink milk. I think it's great for lining the stomach and the digestive tract. In terms, I think it does great for intestinal health. And I'm going to mention that in terms of not only have the dairy farmers been struggling, though I don't know what the problem is in the Plain States, the grain farmers have also been having some issues. There's one farm, I've read a report about the grain farmer that committed suicide most likely due to the stress he was under, though the person had a surplus of grain, though for some reason he couldn't sell the grain. And I'm kind of wondering, I myself am wondering, what's your problem with being incapable of selling the grain when you get the dairy farm struggling? There's like a communication breakdown occurring between those two of the
So
same
you're saying
industry.
you should have a well-balanced meal, is right?
Exactly. I encourage it. I'm not going to push it upon people in terms of, I understand all the fat diets, but all of this hair, this is all from being in Maine, drinking milk, and being omnivorous. All of my other hair was the vegetarian, vegan diets and such. And when I started drinking milk and returned to an omnivorous diet, all of this hair grew. So it's like rings on a tray. Yeah, so.
Thank you, Susan.
And to those who celebrate the holiday, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Susan.
Clearly, I need to drink more milk. As somebody who served on the council for 15 years, it shouldn't come of any great surprise to you to know that I care about government, and I believe government is a good thing, municipal government in particular, and I believe very strongly in the great good that it can do. When I was on the council, one of my fundamental principles that guided me in all of the deliberations were I wanted our municipal government in Orono to be the best municipal government that it could be. And we do an excellent job. You guys do an excellent job. Recently, a few weeks ago, a couple of neighbors came to me and asked for my opinion or advice or whatever about a fill project that occurred in our neighborhood. And I believe you're all been made aware of this, that this happened. In my trying to help them understand what had happened, I came to the conclusion that no one did anything wrong. The guy doing the project didn't do anything wrong. The town didn't do anything wrong in issuing the permit. But it's not as good as it could be. Since then, I've had a meeting with Dave Mylan, the Community Development Director, and Bill Murphy, and we talked about what my concerns and my observations were about the land use regulations that specifically govern fill and excavation projects and the issuance of permits. I was heartened to find that we've had virtually universal agreement on the points that I was making and their thoughts about what remedies for those concerns might be. So what I'd like to do this evening is request that on the next Community Development Committee meeting, that I was gonna come to the meeting last week, but it got canceled. But for the next meeting anyway, add an agenda item to discuss with the staff and myself the observations that the three of us have made about the land use regs governing excavation and fill projects, and see if there isn't a reason to maybe consider a moratorium on granting further fill permits until some of the deficiencies that we've identified can be cleared up and rectified, or amend the land use regulations to address those. So I'll make that request that item be added to the agenda for the Community Development Committee meeting and see where we go from there.
It was already in the works.
What's that?
I think that was already in the works.
Already in the work. Okay,
And so
good.
so you can count on that being able to.
Okay, good. I would have.
Anything to get you to show up more often, Jeff.
No, let's see. I had another comment too, about the new solid waste facility. I think it would be a good idea if Orono could request the operators of the facility to conduct or entertain tours for small groups of Orono residents to tour the facility. Because quite honestly, and everybody I talk to in town, it's a total mystery. What's happening there? What's happening with recycling? What's happening with the disposal of municipal solid waste now? And I think two good things could be accomplished by doing that. One, you would develop a group of citizens who would be in the community, who would be knowledgeable about what's going on inside the walls of the plant. And they could talk to their friends and neighbors and spread the word about what's happening there. And the other good outcome of doing that, I think, is it would demonstrate to the operators of the plant and the owners of the plant that Orono cares about what's happening there. And they want it to be, again, the best that it can be. And I think that's something that if the manager might organize such a thing periodically, maybe once every 3 months or something, do a tour or for 6 or 8 people or whatever makes sense in terms of the number of individuals, and just see what we can do along those lines.
It's a good idea. We'll ask our manager to see if that can happen.
What's that? I can't.
I
hear
said
you.
we'll ask our manager to see if that can happen.
Okay.
Some of us have toured it, and it's a very interesting plan.
I did a tour of the old PERC facility, and I did a tour of the facility in Portland, and it's absolutely mind-boggling what's going on in those plants.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the stuff of nightmares, actually.
So your community development. I will tell you why.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. I do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. All right, moving on to town manager update.
So I don't usually do this, but it was a short agenda item, and I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to bring you up to speed on a few projects. The first, you will notice that Rob did a wonderful job helping to spec out and make the retrofit of the lights work. Lots of compliments on that. We're expecting to see a decrease in our monthly electric bill, which will be great. We did, Cindy and I signed the paperwork for the loan that will pay for the retrofit project. If you recall, we paid for the lights that we had to purchase from a mirror out of reserve fund, but the $187,000 project we borrowed for 7 years. The delay actually worked in our favor. We went from, I think, 3.4% interest to 2.4. So nice, that will be very nice for us. There are still a couple of places where, for whatever reason, it's a different setup on the pole and it required them to get different parts. And also, the last time I went by the bridge at night and paid attention, the ornamentals hadn't been done yet. And so, again, it's a different fixture that they have to put in there. But the majority of the rest of the lights are complete. So I thought Rob did a wonderful job, and I was not expecting when I drove down College Ave at 5 o'clock in the morning to see how much brighter it is. It's just a much better quality of light. So I thought he did a great job. Also, wanted to make you aware that our life safety program is much more active than it used to be, which is wonderful. Very much aimed at health and safety and trying to work with property owners. But one of the things that is coming to our attention is that the town, through ordinance, has named some land uses as pretty common things. Like, for example, a rooming house is a land use. And it's an allowed land use, and we then define what it means to be a rooming house in our ordinance, which council has absolute control over. On the other hand, council adopted the National Fire Prevention Association's Life Safety Code 100 and 101 through ordinance. And in that adoption, that code has definitions for what a rooming house is and what you have to meet if you have a rooming house for life safety guidelines. We are seeing some situations where it might be a legal town use to be a rooming house, but you then have to meet the state safety code. And so we're seeing a little bit of conflict there, trying to figure out how we're going to make it work. But you might hear from people who feel like, well, wait a minute, I'm doing something that's allowed by code, and it's okay by code, but just because you can have it there, you then have to now meet the state rules associated with that. Same kind of conversation that we had with some of the fraternity, those nuances with fraternities. And I want to make you aware in case you hear about that. The town office is going to be closed on Thursday and Friday next week. So just want to make sure everybody remembers that. People have done a wonderful job advertising the Scott Scripture Memorial Thanksgiving, Community Thanksgiving dinner, and Nancy and Belle have been doing a wonderful job in Joe's stead, making sure that everything will go off without a hitch, which is a wonderful thing. The state legislature, in its infinite wisdom, decided that it wanted to add a primary election in March. They decided that was going to be the first Tuesday in March. it came barreling through the legislature with very little time to understand, identify, and respond. So all the towns who put on those elections were just given a date. And normally that wouldn't be a big deal, except the town's regular election is the second Tuesday in March. So staff downstairs is going to be running 2 simultaneous elections because elections don't just occur on the day that the polls are open. There's significant lead up to and then cleanup after elections. We pushed. I went to the town attorney to find out if council had the ability to change the town election, which we can through a charter change, but we have to vote on that at the next annual municipal election on the second Tuesday in March. So that didn't do us any good this year. My suggestion is that we consider a minor amendment to the charter for next year. We've missed all the windows for doing it this year, but that would give council a little bit of flexibility if there's a state election within a certain number of days. So we wouldn't have to deal with it again. Talking with Belle, who supervises the front desk, we are thinking that the Friday before the municipal election, so the Friday after the state primary election, we are going to close the office downstairs, and that will give our staff an opportunity to, without interruption, clean up what they have to from the state election and get everything printed and ready to go for the municipal election. So just want to make you aware, we'll get the advertisement out so that doesn't catch people up short. But if you have a chance to talk to any legislators, and I have probably pinned back a few ears, it would be nice if they would recognize that municipalities run state elections and that they should probably talk to municipalities before they make changes in state elections. Just a thought. So we ran an election. Belle, Shelley, and their crew did an amazing job. There weren't a lot of votes cast, but everything was set up the right way, and we had a lot of volunteers, and it was a great partnership with the university. So we were really pleased with that. We had a windstorm. Don't know if you recognize. It caused Mitch and Dave to pivot very quickly and take our downtown trunk or treat and put it up in the high school gym. I thought that it was great partnership. The school was very gracious in allowing us to use their space. Downtown businesses, by and large, understood that it was a safety issue that caused us to move it. It was a fun evening, which was then followed by a very busy public safety evening. And we opened up the Emergency Operations Center, and I will thank those who stopped with donuts and those who came and had lunch with us. It meant an awful lot to staff to see members of council engaged and caring. The effort that staff put in was truly amazing, and if you want to see something quite humorous, it's watching Rob Yerxa stuck in an emergency operations center trying to manage his crew from afar when he really wants to be in the middle of the action. But he did a really nice job. Everybody did. Rob St. Louis, as the emergency management director, was staffing the EOC, which left my 2 public safety chiefs free and able to do their work. It was really well done. Belle and Pete Yazakavich were your voice of what was happening in town. You can tell the one time I got on there because it was very stilted and not the right voice, but I'm learning. So, I think the crew did a good job for that. I think that is pretty much it. We have our draft financial statements. I'm in the process of writing the management discussion and analysis, and we should be ready at next month's Finance Committee meeting to review the audit and accept in January. So I think it's a pretty good report.
Thank you very much. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.